Thank you all. Thank you, Laura and Esther and everyone who planned this, and thank you all for coming. I'm just going to sing a bunch of interesting songs that I've learned this past year with Ethel Raim, who is a great veteran folk singer. She was in a group called the Penny Whistlers, and later she began devoting herself to Yiddish song, and now is a sort of much beloved teacher of Yiddish song. And this past year I've had the honor of being her apprentice through the Center for Traditional Music and Dance in New York, which she was one of the founders of, and now she has this apprenticeship program where she passes on this tradition of Yiddish folk singing, and I was very lucky to be her apprentice. So I'll share some of the songs that she's taught me this past year and talk about them, and you will appreciate the rich meanings of these songs and their rich melodies, because we have the translations that will be projected, thanks to Hannah, who's helping with supertitles. So, this is the grüne Katschke, the green duck. Geht harim a grüne Katschke, geht harim in Tracht, wollt sie davnen Schachris, es fällt schon zu die Nacht. Katschke grün, breite Nose, keiner weiß nicht, was ist das. Geht harim a grüne Katschke, geht harim in Kite, wollt sie brocken Lokschen, hat sie nicht kein Zeit. Katschke grün, breite Nose, keiner weiß nicht, was ist das. Geht harim a grüne Katschke, mit a breiter Nose, wollt sie schmecken Tabak, hat sie nicht mit was. Katschke grün, breite Nose, keiner weiß nicht, was ist das. Dreht sich die Katschke, dreht sich an a Sinn, wollt sie gehen spazieren, hat sie nicht wohin. Katschke grün, breite Nose, keiner weiß nicht, was ist das. Tracht die grüne Katschke, was et sein, wollt sie machen Kiddisch, hat sie nicht kein Wein. Katschke grün, breite Nose, keiner weiß nicht, was ist das. Katschke grün, breite Nose, keiner weiß nicht, was ist das. Das ist die grüne Katschke. On the next slide, you'll see this is Zuni Maud, Zuni Maud wrote the song. Zuni Maud wrote the poem, and he published it in a book of his poetry. As you see, that's his illustration to his poem. It says there, grüne Katschke, green duck. And I read an account by Chaver Paver, another Yiddish author, of Zuni Maud, and he said that Zuni Maud was himself like the grüne Katschke, and the song was sort of semi-autobiographical, because like the duck in the song, Zuni Maud, the writer, would walk around 2nd Avenue not quite knowing where to go, whether to go to the office at the Morgen Freiheit, where he worked, the communist newspaper in New York, Yiddish newspaper, or to go to a cafe and schmooze with people, or to go to his chess club. And all the time he went around whittling, Ausschnitzen, whittling, and creating fantastical figures. He was also a puppeteer. And so he was a bit like the grüne Katschke. Wollt gehen spazieren, hat nicht wohin. He would like to go for a walk, but he doesn't have anywhere to go. Das ist Zuni Maud, the grüne Katschke. On the next slide, you will see I've divided these songs into different types. The first one was a silly song. A fun and silly song. Most of them are not fun and silly. So that's sort of the exception for most of the songs I've learned this year with Ethel. You also have songs of love and heartbreak, and a lot of the songs fall into that category. Songs with lyrics by famed poets, one of them being one we just heard, but there are many others. Folk songs, sometimes nobody knows where exactly they came from. The words seem to have just come out of the air and are sung by the folk and transmitted generation to generation. And then sometimes we have a writer who pens a song that becomes a folk song because it becomes so beloved among the people, and they sing it, and sometimes they forget who wrote it. But I'll be singing some songs with lyrics that are written by famous Yiddish authors. Then there are songs about religion and holidays. There are a lot of songs like that. There are a lot of songs that tell very shocking and sad stories about people who died tragic deaths or who were killed. So I'll be singing some of those teen tragedies as well. And then there are historical songs about actual historical events. I'll sing one about the Russo-Japanese War in 1904. And biblical songs, songs that retell stories from the Bible, but in a Yiddish manner, in a colloquial, sort of funny, sometimes surprising manner. So this is going to be now one of the love songs, one of the songs of tragic love, of heartbreak. This one isn't as tragic. This one is two people do love each other, but they don't have the means to have a happy life together. One of them, the man, has been sent off to serve in war. He's one of these Jewish recruits, of which there were many. Jewish boys would be chapt and sent off to serve in the Russian military. And he won't have the means to support her. But they do love each other. Das ist As in draußen geht der Regen. As in draußen geht der Regen, während ich stehn da lach nass, während ich stehn da lach nass. Die hast doch mir zu gesucht, als mir wollen Chassene huben, als ich will mich aufstellen die erste Klasse. Als die kennst auf kein Bräut nicht verdienen, was teug mir dein Chassene huben. Als mir wollen nicht huben, wo es zu essen, was für eine Welt will ich bei dir haben. Als mir will nicht haben, was zu essen, der Fahr darfst du dich nicht sorgen. Der Fahr darfst du dich nicht sorgen. Für deinetwegen mein teuer süß Leben, Laien will ich in Borgen, auf sie Laien in auf sie Borgen. Weis na sa Welt ob sie leben, als me wird ins Kimmen die Chäuwalachmonen, wer wird sie für uns abgeben? Die Chäuwalach upzimunnen, das darf dir nicht liegen daran. Ich wollt mich ungenehmen, die Häuser zu gehen, ab ich soll sein dein Mann. Ich wollt mich ungenehmen, die Häuser zu gehen, ab ich soll sein dein Mann. There are a few different versions of that song with slightly different melodies. Lifshe Schechter Wiedmann, she's the source for a lot of these songs. People recorded her singing. She was a woman from Bukovina in Eastern Europe, and they recorded her singing hundreds of songs that she knew. And that was her version. But her daughter, Bela Schechter Gottesman, also a folk singer and an artist, sings it to a different tune on one of her albums. But that's one that Lifshe sang. And Ethel told me that if I sing that version, I'll be the only one singing it in the world. So you might have heard something very rare. Oi still unruhig is the next song. Oi still unruhig, how quiet and peaceful. There you see a Jewish cemetery, because the opening lines refer to a cemetery. The cemetery is quiet, but the speaker's heart is burning with love, with disappointed love. Most love in these songs is disappointed love. Oi still unruhig is eufen Beis Oilem, und kein Gräsele dort rührt sich nicht, und kein Gräsele dort rührt sich nicht. Hasisser schloft ein dem Eulem, und von unser Liebe weiß doch keiner nicht. Du hast gewusst, du kennst kein Liebe viel, da was hast du mir als Heujung dem Kopf verdreht? Da was hast du mir als Heujung dem Kopf verdreht? Heu gleicher wollt ich a Kind gestorben, eider ich hab sich in dir erkennt. Von Tag zu Tag brennt der Feier größer, wenn ich seh dich mit a Zweiter gehen. Wenn ich seh dich mit a Zweiter gehen, heu stechen will ich sich mit am Messer, als meine Augen sollen du's nicht sehen. Stech sich nicht duschen, ju, heu mit kein Messer, weil deine Trärelach seinen umsiehst, weil deine Trärelach seinen umsiehst. Ich bin schon mit Masel a Chussen geworden. Du kannst schon nehmen, wenn du willst. That song, as you might have been able to tell, at the end, it's the Chussen, the groom, her beloved, saying to her, now speaking to her, "Oh, don't stab yourself, it'll be all right. I've gotten married to someone else. You can take whomever you want now," which must have been some consolation to the girl. Oi still und ruhig. That I learned with Ethel from a recording by a man named Harry Ari. And these people who did these recordings that Ethel teaches with, we listen to these old recordings of people singing these songs in their living rooms, and we listen to them very closely, trying to get each nuance of the person's delivery, each vocal gesture, each slide and scoop and krechts. Does anyone know what a krechts is? Krechts is groaning. So if you're producing a sound with your voice that sounds like sobbing, that's called a krechts. And sometimes klezmer fiddles will do it, or clarinets, cantors also. But you hear it in a lot of these singers. But these folk singers were just regular people, and their voices are regular people's voices. But I always love, because Ethel has a great appreciation for their voices, and they are great singers. But she says, "Isn't that voice gorgeous?" But it's not something that necessarily every person listening to it, I think, might say was gorgeous if they weren't keyed into this kind of style and this kind of song and this repertoire. But they really were great singers, although most not professionals. Oi mamenu, a gutinke Nacht. Oh, mama dear, good night. Another song of heartbroken love. this one of a girl who goes off and does something that she perhaps shouldn't have done. And you can determine what that is from the lyrics. The interesting thing, a lot of these songs are sung from the perspective of heartbroken girls, and women were great singers of this repertoire, but also men, and they sing the same songs. So if you hear Harry Ari, for example, he will sing also these songs that are sung from a girl's perspective, and it doesn't bother him, and it's not considered weird, which I think is nice. And I think you hear a lot of the counterexample today of people changing around lyrics so it fits their perceived whatever. But like, for example, Michael Bublé, he does Santa Baby. I was thinking about this, but he doesn't do Santa Baby, he does Santa Buddy. Santa Buddy, I'll wait up for you, dude, not dear, get me a convertible. He even changes light blue to steel blue because he has to be Michael Bublé. But Harry Ari didn't change any pronouns or ideas. These songs are just what they are, and whoever is singing them embodies for the moment that person's heartbreak. This is Oi Mamenu a Gutjenke Nacht. Oi Mamenu a Gutjenke Nacht. Ich hab mit a Jingele ganz schön verbracht. Ich hab getan a Sach. Hab sich gar nicht getracht, hab gemeint, das ist Tag, zum Sof ist gar Nacht. Hab getan as a Sach, hab sich gar nicht getracht, hab gemeint, das ist Tag, zum Sof ist gar Nacht. Oi, Mamenu, der Kopf tut mir weh, schick noch a Doktor oder noch zwei. Hoi, a Doktor kann heilen, a Menschen sein krank, aber nicht mir, Mamenu, nach dem, was ich denk. Hoi, Mamenu, die Sterne gehen auf, als me folgt nicht am Mammen, geht ois as a Sof. Ich hab nicht gehört, der Mammes Gebet, die Levone hat gescheint, gewinn schon zu spät. Hab getan as a Sach, hab sich gar nicht getracht, hab gemeint, das ist Tag, zum Sof ist gar Nacht. I wrote one new line for that song that was among those you just sang, but you probably couldn't tell that it was something new. But I liked one verse from one version, but it didn't have an ending that went with this version, so I wrote a new couplet for it. And I brought it to Ethel at our weekly session at her apartment in the Bronx, and I was worried that I might have done something that was not kosher because maybe one doesn't write new lyrics for these songs, but she was very open to it, and she says, of course, everyone has different variants of each song, and from shtetl to shtetl, they would sing slightly different lyrics and different melodic variations, so why not write new things and incorporate them into these songs even today? So we'll move on from the Heartbreak, although later we will get to the teen tragedy. This is songs by famous authors, with lyrics by famous authors. So here's Money Labe, and he wrote a song, Pflanzt mein Schwesterl a Garten. He wrote the lyrics to it. If you go to the next slide, you'll see also Money Labe and Berta Kling, who was a poet herself and also had a literary salon up in the Bronx, at her home in the Bronx, which is where I go to every week to meet with Ethel. Anyway, Berta Kling knew Money Labe, and Money Labe came to her house one day and recited this poem of the Schwesterl, she calls it, of the little sister, and sang it with a melody that maybe he made up himself, And she remembered it ever after. So if we go to that link, we'll hear Berta singing a bit of it. And I got this from her recording. There should be a little play thing up top, I think. Or it doesn't go. No, we didn't have to sign in earlier, but oh, maybe maybe now.
Jetzt will singen ein Lied von meinem Leben. Pflanzt meine Schwester Garten, hoi, 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 blühen schöne Blumen dorten, hoi, hoi. Als wenn mir wird bitter werden, in mein Leben, in mein Schweren, hoi, 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 soll ich in dem Garten kommen, und fahr die schöne Blumen, hoi.
That's great. And now we'll go back to the words, and I'll sing what I learned from listening to that recording. Pflanzt mein Schwesterl... No, that's starting too high. Pflanzt mein Schwesterl a Garten... No, 1 second. Pflanzt mein Schwesterl a Garten... Hoi, hoi, hoi. Pflanzt mein Schwesterl... Pflanzt mein Schwesterl a Garten... Hoi, 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 blühen schöne Blumen dorten, hoi, hoi, als wenn mir wird bitter werden, in mein Leben, in mein Schweren, hoi, 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 will ich zu dem Garten kommen, ruhen bei die schöne Blumen, hoi. Grobt mein Schwesterl Brunnen, hoi, 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 es scheint das Wasser wie die Sonnen, hoi, hoi, als wenn mir wird bitter werden, in mein Leben, in mein Schweren, hoi, 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 will ich fahren, Brunnen sinken, und das frische Wasser trinken, hoi. Neit mein Schwesterl Kischen, hoi, 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 Puch von weiße Gäns gerissen, hoi, hoi, als wenn mir wird bitter werden, in mein Leben, in mein Schweren, hoi, 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 will ich auf in Kischen liegen, bis der Teut wird mich verwiegen, hoi. So that's Mani Leib, his words, and I believe his melody, as Berta Kling tells us. Another song, how are we doing? Let's see on time. Okay. This is another song written by a famous poet. This is Zelik Bardichever, who I believe came from the area of Bessarabia. And I'm thinking of visiting that area this summer, actually. So I thought I would maybe, as I broke the news to my mother yesterday, that I might be going to Kishinev, and that wasn't good news. But anyway, Zelik Bardichever came from not far from there, and he wrote songs about where he came from, and this one happens to be about a sort of unusual topic, the songs that he hears drifting to him from the neighboring Gentile village. And it's a very sweet and positive song that sort of touches on Judeo-Gentile relations. So that's a nice exception to a lot of the material, which when you get those sorts of relationships, sometimes things go very wrong. But in this one, he's appreciating the music he's hearing floating to him to his porch from the neighboring Gentile peasants singing. Nachtische Lieder, nighttime songs. Nachtische Lieder fin schreinischen Dorf, verblongen am Molzi mein Ganek, sie lächen mein Treuer, sie glätten mein Umet, sie fließen wie saftiger Honig. Lieder Chachlatzke, muntere Frische, wo schmecken mit Feld und mit Scheier. Sie fühlen die Luft an, mit Warmkeit lieber, was strömt von einer heimischen Feier. Nacht is in shtetl, ich lieg auf in Ganek. Wer darf heint der Mames geleger? Is was has is eins, is was has is zwei, is was has schlagt schein drei der Seger. Herr, ich weiß nicht, sie es jontif in Dorf, sie es hilien sich glatt so jingen. Has was ist der Chilek, heubs wird bald mir tacht, die Levone euch anheben singen. Also gießen amol sich, fin schreinischen Dorf, heimische saftige Teiner, bis hebt on Frühmorgen, sie wargen die Nacht, in es heben on Krähenscheun die Heiner. Thank you, Zelik Bardichever. Here's a song that fits into this category, songs about holidays and religion. This is a song, on the surface it's telling sleeping Jews to get up to pray the morning prayers, which in the shtetl there were actually people who would go around, they were called shulklappers, and they would have a little instrument for banging on people's shutters, telling them it was time to rise to go to the morning service. So this is a song that fits into that tradition, but also to me it has a sense of get up and do something and don't sleep and listen to what's happening and do something. To me, that's sort of maybe a subtext and maybe one I'm just inventing. But I think of it, when I sing it, I think of that it's sort of a call to action in a way and not just about get up for morning prayers. Steht auf, Brüder. Steht auf, Brüder, wo schlaft ihr? Steht auf, Brüder, wo schlaft ihr? Es ist schön Zeit, Schachris zu davenen, 1, 2, 3, 4, es ist schön Zeit, Schachris zu davenen, 1, 2, 3, 4. Nicht kein Schachris und nur geschlafen, was tägt ihr auf der Welt, mit was wird ihr kommen auf jener Welt. Steht auf, Brüder, wo schlaft ihr? Steht auf, Brüder, wo schlaft ihr? Es ist schön Zeit, Musef zu davenen, 1, 2, 3, 4. Es ist schön Zeit, Musef zu davenen, 1, 2, 3, 4. Nicht kein Musef und nicht kein Schachris und nicht kein Schachris und nur geschlafen. Was tägt ihr auf der Welt? mit was wird ihr kommen auf jener Welt. Steht auf, Brüder. This is another one about Jewish ritual. This one is about all the holidays. Often people were destitute, living in the shtetl, and they needed to fulfill the commandments of the holidays. They needed to have the lulav and esrog for Sukkot, the plants that you carry around on Sukkot for ritual purposes, and they need to have matzahs for Passover, etc. But they didn't necessarily have the means to get them. So the message of this song is, don't worry, leave it up to God, and also borrow from your neighbors, and you'll be all right. Gott ist a Vater. God is a father. That's an expression. God will take care of us. Which reminds me of a story, maybe, can I tell, Dad? My dad has a brother in Israel who is a rabbi and just studies all day. That's his what he does, and his sons also study all day. He's a Haredi rabbi, and doesn't necessarily have all the comforts of life or all the money he might wish for. So my dad and mom kindly help him out a bit, and with a bit of tzedakah. Anyway, and once my dad asked, I think at the Shabbos table, as my dad does together with his siblings, and it's very kind of them. And he asked my uncle Yerachmiel, what would you do if you didn't have tzedakah? And he said, well, God would provide. And my dad said, well, maybe God could provide a little more and we could provide a little less. But anyway, that's not to do Lashon Hara, and he's wonderful, and he a wonderful uncle and father, etc. Shtetl nicht gesorgt. Und als sie kommt, der Jontif Pesach, wieder aufs Nei. Nicht da kein Burkes, nicht da kein Wein. Hai, ai, 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 scha, still und nicht gesorgt. Gott in Himmel is a Futter, du geliehen, du geborgt. Hab schon als in Puter. Hai, 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 hai. Was mir sennen mir, aber jeden sennen mir. Ins im Reben fuhren mir. Unser ganzen Leben still und nicht gesorgt. Gott in Himmel is a Futter, du geliehen, du geborgt. Hab schon als in Puter. In as se kimmt der Jontif Shavuos, coming soon, wieder aufs Nei. Nicht da kein Milchix, nicht da kein Grins. Hai, ai, 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 scha, still und nicht gesorgt. Gott in Himmel is a Futter, du geliehen, du geborgt. Hab schon als in Puter. Hai, 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 hai. Was mir sennen mir, aber jeden sennen mir, ins im Reben fuhren mir. Unser ganzen Leben still und nicht gesorgt. Gott in Himmel is a Futter, du geliehen, du geborgt. Hab schon als in Puter. In as se kimmt der Jontif Sikkes, wieder aufs Nei. Nicht da kein Liliv, nicht da kein Esrog. Ai, 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 scha, still und nicht gesorgt. Gott in Himmel is a Futter, du geliehen, du geborgt. Hab schon als in Puter. Hi, 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 hi. Was mir sennen mir, aber Jiden sennen mir, ins im Reben fuhren mir. Unser ganzen Leben still und nicht gesorgt. Gott in Himmel ist a Futter, du geliehen, du geborgt, hab schon als in Potter. We've gotten to my favorite part of the night, which is the teen tragedies. So, this is a song, a neue Geschichte, a new story, and apparently a lot of people in a lot of different shtetl would sing this song, and each of them, whenever they would sing it for someone recording them, would say, and this actually happened in my shtetl, and I heard because they told me, and we have this song about it. So, who knows? But I hope not, because it's actually quite sad. So, a neue Geschichte, which is by now quite an old story, but a new story. Oi, a neue Geschichte, oi, a neue Geschichte, kann ich euch erzählen. Was hat sich getroffen, du nicht weit. Ach, Husen hat sich der Trinken finna Kalle, der Zief in die feine Leid. Ach, Husen hat sich der Trinken finna Kalle, der Zief in die feine Leid. Viel tausender Menschen sind spazieren gegangen. Die sind sich wuss amol arup. Fin jener seit Wasserl steht a schöne Kalle. Sie ummert, sie wehend, sie klugt. Fin jener seit Wasserl steht a schöne Kalle. Sie ummert, sie wehend, sie klugt. Wie man hat ihm von dem Teichel herausgenommen, von die Fischerlach ist gewähnt zerbissen. Wie die Kalle hat ihm der Sehen, die Kleider von sich hat sie zerrissen. Wie die Kalle hat das der Sehen, die Kleider von sich hat sie zerrissen. Hoi Menschen, ihr Gitte, hoi Menschen getreie, ihr gedenkt doch, was für a Kleider hat getrogen. Zerteilt die Kleider, verureme leiten, me soll noch im Kadesh suchen. Zerteilt die Kleider, verureme leiten, me soll noch im Kadesh suchen. That's apparently was a custom. I don't know if people know about that, or from this song they know about it, but when the person died, maybe they would divide their clothes up among the poor people, and then as a show of gratitude, those poor people would perhaps say Kaddish for the young man, the young person who died. Kaddish, for those who don't know, is the Jewish mourner's prayer. 12 Haseger spät bei Nacht. Another teen tragedy. This one is very long, so just hold on to your seats. Some of these ballads just have many stanzas, and they kind of go on, And I felt very proud when I memorized all these stanzas, but I still might look sometimes anyway, because there's a lot. And you'll see what happens as I sing it, so I don't need to tell you. But 12 Hazeger spät bei Nacht, a lot of the songs are set at this time of night, because who knows what can happen when it's midnight and there's no one walking around on the streets. Zwölf Hazeger spät bei Nacht, me seht kein Mensch scheuen nit gehen, me seht kein Mensch scheuen nit gehen. A dort geht sich Wirotschka und Palmatit ihrer Kegen gehen. A dort geht sich Wirotschka und Palmatit ihrer Kegen gehen. Jetzt ist gekommen die rechte Zeit, als die sollst mir sagen, jo zu nähen. Als die sollst mir sagen, jo zu nähen. Ach, jo zu nähen, sag ich dir nicht, weil meine Eltern, sie willen doch nicht. Und als meine Eltern, sie tun mich stern, als ich soll vor dir kein Kolle nicht wehren. Wenn Palma tot das der Herd, die Geschichte hat ihm stark verdrossen. Die Geschichte hat ihm stark verdrossen. Ach, ois gekervet hat dem Revolver und hat Wirotschken geschossen. Ach, ois gekervet hat dem Revolver und hat Wirotschken geschossen. Wir hat sie nur geschossen, geblieben liegen ist sie wie ein Stein, geblieben liegen ist sie wie ein Stein. Ach, ois gekervet hat dem Revolver und hat geschossen sich allein. Ach, ois gekervet hat dem Revolver und hat geschossen sich allein. Wie hat sich nur geschossen, die Pulje hat ihm nicht getroffen, die Pulje hat ihm nicht getroffen. Adieu, adieu, mein teuer süß Leben, ich will schon mehr auf dir nicht hoffen. Adieu, adieu, mein teuer Leben, ich will schon mehr auf dir nicht hoffen. Yom Kippur auf der Nacht, die Mame hat das Fleisch abgegossen, die Mame hat das Fleisch abgegossen. A wisste Pessires, men ihr gekommen sogen, als me hat ihr Wirotschken geschossen. A wisste Pessires, men ihr gekommen sogen, als me hat ihr Wirotschken geschossen. Nehmt euch zu neu, alle gitte Freund, und nehmt auf Verruf in mir a Reihe, und nehmt auf Verruf in mir a Reihe. Ich hab gesollt gehen auf Wirotschkes Chippe, und jetzt geh ich auf ihre Weihe. Ich hab gesollt gehen auf Wirotschkes Chippe, und jetzt geh ich auf ihre Weihe. Nehmt euch zu neuf, alle gute Freund, und helft mir wehen in den Klugen, und helft mir wehen in den Klugen. Als eure Kinder wollen a Liebe spielen, kein Daie sollt ihr sie nicht sogen. Als eure Kinder wollen a Liebe spielen, kein Daie sollt ihr sie nicht sogen. Sei mir Meuchel wie a Tochter, Palma, die gewinn bei mir der Schönster. Palmat gewenn bei mir der Schönster. Ach, in dein Teut ist dir keinen nicht schuldig, die hast ein ältere Schwester. Ach, in dein Teut ist dir keiner nicht schuldig, die hast ein ältere Schwester. So, no one is responsible for the death. You do have an older sister, after all. Although Palmat did shoot her, so one would think he's responsible for her death. But the mother says, no one is responsible. We couldn't let you marry him. You have an older sister. That is, your older sister had to marry first before you could get married. Therefore, we had to forbid this marriage to Palmat, which unfortunately didn't end well. So, as eure Kinder wollen a Liebe spielen, kein Dehe sollt ihr sie nicht suchen, is the moral. If your children want to have a love with someone, you mustn't tell them no. You mustn't give your ruling. Songs about historical events. This song is just called 1904. 1904 Jahre. And that's the year the Russo-Japanese War began. So the Russian Empire went to war with the Empire of Japan, fighting over Manchuria and over similar imperial aims. And of course, many Jewish conscripts were forced to go off to the Far East, Dalny Vostok, to fight in this war that they felt they really didn't have anything to do with, and possibly to die. So in this song, a soldier says goodbye to his family before leaving for the Russo-Japanese War. We might have actually a picture next. Oh no, maybe that's at the end. That's at the end, okay, good. 1904 Jahr is gewesen in Russland a schlechter Nabor. Men hat abgegeben, le Gott nikes Gor. Bei mir is geblieben die ärgste 4 Jahr. Sei je mir gesinnt, mein teurer Futter, die ganze 4 Jahr wärst in Nebech fin mir Putter. Oi, sei je mir gesinnt, in Bett fahr mir Gott. Me soll mich nicht naznatschen, in Dalny Vostok. Sei je mir gesinnt, mein teure Mame, mein teure Mütter, dir ist doch schlecht und mir ist doch bitter. Hoi sei je mir gesinnt, in Bett fahr mir Gott. Me soll mich nicht naznatschen, in Dalny Vostok. Sei je mir gesinnt, mein teure Kalle, noch dir will ich bänken, neu mehr wie noch alle. Hoi sei je mir gesinnt, in Bett fahr mir Gott. Me soll mich nicht naznatschen, in Dalny Vostok. Dalny Vostok, wollt gewinn on Asakone, wenn es soll nicht sein, die japanske Milchome. Hoi sei je mir gesinnt, seid mir alle gesinnt, in Bett fahr mir Gott. Me soll mich nicht naznatschen, in Dalny Vostok. There's Ethel Raim, my teacher, in the color picture. We always laugh about that line. The Far East wouldn't be so bad if it weren't for the Russo-Japanese War. But that is cause to lament. And that's Mikhl Yashinsky, who we know that song from her recording of it. And there in that picture is the two of them, actually. Mikhl Yashinsky sitting, giving a concert because Ethel brought out a lot of these older people from the old country to share their folk songs with the world and planned concerts for them. And she planned one with Fagel Juden. And Fagel sang her songs. So there Ethel and Fagel are together. We have a couple more songs. So we'll go on to the next one. This is Potiphar's Vibe. Probably some of you know the story of the Bible of Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Potiphar's wife, the wife of this Egyptian high official, tried to seduce Joseph, and the Midrash, I think, says that he wavered a lot whether or not to do it. And I think even in the trope, the cantillation of that portion of the Torah, when it's read out in shul, in the word that says he refused to sleep with her or something, there's a lot of, is that true, Gabe? My brother knows more, but there's a lot of sort of undulation in the tones for that word, implying that in this refusal, he actually wavered a lot, and it was hard for him to decide. So this song is about that wavering and his struggle with the evil eye, whether or not to give in to temptation, and Potiphar's wife. And this was sung on Purim. This is part of a Purim spiel. The Purim spiel were not just about the plays done on the masquerade holiday of Purim, were not only about the story of Esther. Sometimes other biblical stories would be parodied and satirized and songs sung about them. So this particularly was a Yosef spiel. This was called a Yosef spiel, and this was a play done about the story of Joseph. And Lifshe Schechter Widman, who we have the recording of her singing it, says she knows it from when a Yosef spiel with this song was done in the shtetl. Potiphar's Weib hat mich ungerät. Ich soll mit ihr schlufen. Ich soll mit ihr schlufen. Hab mich getin a Bore mit n Jetzer Haare. Als Gott wird mich strufen. Potiphar's Weib hat mich ungerät. Wir sollen schlufen beide. Wir sollen schlufen beide. Hab mich getin a Bore. And I made a mistake there. It should be grandfather, but you'll know that. Hab mich getin a Bore mit n Jetzer Haare. As Yitzchak is mein Seide. Potiphar's Weib hat mich ungerät. Wir sollen sein zusammen. Wir sollen sein zusammen. Hab mich getin a Bore mit n Jetzer Haare. As a Ruchel is mein Mame. Gut. One more song. I thought I'd end by going back to the silly songs category with which we began. That was Grine Kachke. And this is a song about going off to Odessa. I went off to Odessa. Odessa, of course, very sad, horrific today. A lot of it in ruins due to the war with Russia, but was formerly, and perhaps will still be again in the future, but a bustling, wonderful, vibrant destination, really, on the Black Sea. And Jews would travel there for holiday and also to take the cure. And I've put as a picture here, actually, my great-grandmother, my mother's grandmother, Polly Weiss, Perl. This is an actual postcard she sent to her friend Anna, and she writes in Russian in the corner, as an eternal memory, memento for my friend Anna from Polya, which was another version of her name. And it's sent from Odessa, or sent to Odessa. But anyway, in the bottom, in Cyrillic characters, you see Odessa. And that's my great-grandmother photographed there on the postcard. So this is a song about someone who goes off to Odessa to visit her aunt. And it's a bit of a silly song, a bit of a nonsense song. Bin gefahren keiner des Lädchen meine Masoljes, Chai, Pil, Sakusil, täglich mit Fasoljes, Chai, Pil, Sakusil, täglich mit Fasoljes. Ich bin gefahren keiner des zu der Tjotje Chanke, Chai, Pil, Sakusil, auf der Moldewanke. Chai, Pil, Sakusil, auf der Moldewanke. Ich bin gefahren, keiner des Nähen dort Giljetten. Hab getan a Klapp in Tisch, Borsch mit Koteletten. Hab getan a Klapp in Tisch, Borsch mit Koteletten. Heiße Tee und kalte Tee, Bäckerlach, täglich mit Fasoljes, alle schönenke Mädelech haben miese Doljes, alle schöne Mädelech haben miese Doljes. Heiße Tee und kalte Tee, Bäckerlach mit Reusen, der was tragt kein Schleikes nicht, der verliert die Häusen. Der was tragt kein Schleikes nicht, der verliert die Häusen. Ich bin gefahren, keiner des Lädchen meine Masoljes, Chai, Pil, Sakusil, täglich mit Fasoljes. Chai, Pil, Sakusil, täglich mit Fasoljes. That was Ich bin gefahren, keiner des. I traveled to Odessa. Now it's time for all of you fahren nach Heim, because that's the end of the concert. So thank you for listening to these folk songs with me and learning a bit about them. And know that this tradition of Yiddish folk song continues. And you can find a lot of these songs. You Google Yiddish Song of the Week. There's a wonderful blog that posts a lot of these recordings of these old singers together with lyrics. And you can learn these songs and sing them with your friends and kids and grandkids and pass them on. Gut, schönen Dank.